Good morning, everybody. This is Standing Bear Thunderheart, and this is gonna be today. This is a video response. Actually, it's called Standing Bear's commentary video response to the Crossface to explore the tragic story of the late wrestler Chris Benoit. By this one particular person by the name of Mitch, the wrestling guru champion of YouTube.com / the wrestling gurus. So I just wanted to make a response video to that. And the first thing I wanted to say before I go any further is that of course this was regarding, he was talking about of course the movie of the Chris Benoit story. It's called Crossface Chris Benoit story is what it's called. They're going to try to make a movie of the Chris Benoit's life and how it was, he had to go on the roads, how he took some bumps and bruises, how he was trained, and it's basically like a life story, like any movie with any famous celebrities like Babe Ruth or anything like of the past. So, but before I go any further with this, there was a double murder suicide accordingly to many of the reports in the past, like 2007 when Chris Benoit and his wife and his son died in the Atlanta home not too long ago. And supposedly, of course, Chris Benoit killed his wife and killed the son and then killed himself afterwards. However, there are some conspiracy out there that are saying that someone else killed Chris Benoit and his family, and it's supposed to be Kevin Sullivan, supposed to be an ex-wife of actually the ex-husband of that wife, Nancy, of Chris Benoit's current wife at that time, and also the enemy of Chris Benoit back in the WCW days. But I'm not going to talk too much about that right now. But if you want to explore it for yourself, there are going to be some various websites of that discuss these things, so you can actually go and find out for yourself. So just let you know that. So it's going to be at the bottom of this video, and like I said, just go and explore it for yourself. So, but what I really wanted to tell you, say about the Chris Benoit movie, Mitch, I really commend and I really am proud of the fact that you actually brought this up, that you brought this to light, as far as the story of it, because a lot of people, including Jim Ross, did not like the idea of watching this movie because he doesn't want to relive the tragedy, and since he knew these three people, I can understand why. And at the same time, I like the idea that you brought up his perspective, that movies get created all the time about JFK assassinations or 9/11 and things like that, and certain things need to be remembered, certain things need to be brought to light. And I really am happy that you brought that up, because so many people so many times don't want to deal with certain things. They just feel that if you just sweep it under the rug or bury it, it's going to be fine, it's going to go away. But I got news for you people. It does not go away. It actually grows within you, even if you think it's dead. Even if you think it's not relevant, it still grows. And the fact that you even brought up the fact that you brought up JFK assassination, how his wife, Jackie Kennedy Onassis, the late Jackie Kennedy Onassis, I might add, had to relive that every day, watching her husband's brains getting blown out by an assassination with a gun. There's just his brains hanging in a car in Lincoln, for crying out loud. She has to relive it her whole life. So to make various movies like that, people didn't complain very much, but it seems somehow people want to get mad and complain and cry that they're going to create a Chris Benoit movie. Why not? There have been so many movies being created, with vampires and various other movies like that, and Holocaust and things like that. Now, just like what Mitch says, and I'm going to say the same thing what Mitch says. I agree with what he says. It's not to put out a tribute to Chris Benoit or a tribute to anything that you feel that he did was wrong. It's to tribute for his career, for what he has put out into the world, and the positive things that he has put out in the wrestling industry, by the way. And that's just it. It's about putting out what he did to the wrestling industry, and he is a big part of it, whether people like it or don't like it. Ever since the whole Chris Benoit situation happened in 2007, the whole wrestling world has basically has crumbled ever since. Besides bad storylines and various of the foolish politics that has happened, the real truth, and also in all fairness too, the rise of combative sports like MMA, mixed martial arts, kickboxing, boxing is starting to make a bit of a comeback, and various other sports that are actually coming up that you haven't yet to even see, folks. As far as like jiu-jitsu, wrestling, many types of martial arts sports are going to come out, and there's going to be more of it. I guarantee you that there's going to be more types of martial arts that are going to come out as sports. Like whether it's taekwondo, you watch, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And that's another part of it. At the same time, it is really what really made it a huge blow to the wrestling industry was the Chris Benoit tragedy. Is what really made it a huge blow. I mean, you can deny it all you want, but the bottom line was anybody who looks at this objectively, Bill Goldberg has said it, various wrestlers have said it, Jim Cornette. I am now saying it, and many people who think objectively have said this. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it was Chris Benoit's tragic story that has got all the media up in there, as far as Fox News and different people all the different damn day. If they weren't talking about the Palestinians of the Hamas versus the Fatahs, they were talking about Paris Hilton and her foolishness and what happened with her. And then Chris Benoit's situation didn't help. That happened. You got all different wrestlers, all different people. They have their opinions. Some of them were disgruntled employees and various other things like that. They had something to say. And not all of it was true, and not all of them were out for the best interest of the company. They were out for themselves for the most part. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, it was a dark time in professional wrestling. Just like what Mitch said, it was a dark time. And on top of that, Rainbow and myself, when we were on MySpace and we were trying to do what we do on MySpace and everything, we basically said good things about Chris Benoit and what he has put out, not necessarily condoning what he did, but I think too many people misunderstood and started turning on us and saying that we love baby killers and all kinds of nonsense and everything. I mean, first of all, like I said before, and just like what Mitch said, and I'm going to say it like this too, and I'm standing up and saying it like this. I did not condone what Chris Benoit did if he actually did it. Like I said, I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt that perhaps he may not do it, as far as the Kevin Sullivan theories are concerned. I've done my own research on it, but like I said, you guys can do your own research on that. But if he did it, let's just say Chris Benoit goes and kills his own family and everything. You know what? I personally have already forgiven him for that, because it's not necessarily about him that I'm forgiving for. It's about taking my own power back. It's about forgiving it for myself. Why exactly about forgiving him for myself? It's because, remember, I'm the one who liked him. I'm the one who was a fan of his. And just because, sure, he did what he did, if he did that, then it was definitely wrong, and I don't agree with it. I don't agree with killing your own kid, killing your wife, and then killing yourself, and so forth. At the same time, one must move forward. One must move on and take your power back. That's what forgiveness usually means. It doesn't mean you accept what he did. It just means you're taking your power back. You understand? And that's how it is. So I definitely commend Mitch for definitely bringing this up, and definitely bringing up the idea that movies need to be cut out. It needs to be brought out with the Chris Benoit. Matter of fact, there's a saying that goes like this. The saying that the things that we try to avoid the most are the very things that we need to actually face the most, if anything. We need to face up to that, folks. I mean, this really hurt the industry of the WWE, TNA, and many of the pro wrestling organizations in America. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the rest of the world are doing okay and everything, but it really hurt professional wrestling in such a great deal that it has not really recovered. And a lot of people may say John Cena is to blame for the WWE, the PG, and then this whole thing with the PG rating with the WWE. I mean, let's be honest, that was just to use that to cover up for what Chris Benoit and this whole situation have happened with, and that's just it. That's what's so stupid about it, is that the the whole PG thing with the WWE has definitely killed, WWE even further, trying to cover up Chris Benoit. And which, by the way, I definitely want to bring this up because Rich brought it up really nicely when he said this. WWE especially, and many other professional wrestling organizations, and I'm assuming, decide not to recognize Chris Benoit at all, like he didn't exist. like his career wasn't relevant. I mean, I even look at the archives of championships being won by various people, whether it's tag teams or world heavyweight championships, and especially the fact that Vince McMahon and WWE bought WCW and ECW and various other wrestling organizations. Chris Benoit was in all of those. Okay, he participated in Extreme Championship Wrestling and World Championship Wrestling, and he has won championships in these organizations, and yet there was no mention in archives, as far as championship archives are concerned, of Chris Benoit. I was like, okay, you know what? I know WWE. Let me put it like this: I know you are in. I know it was painful to have an employee who did what he did, if he actually did it, and if you felt that way, fine. And I know you're upset and angry and hurt by all this, and I know you've been scrutinized up the ass by the media. Of professional wrestling, and your credibility went down. You lost a lot of fans. You lost a lot of money, and various other things. But you know what? Let me be honest with you, WWE, and that goes for any wrestling organizations in America that decides not to recognize Chris Benoit, or anybody else for that matter, what decides to simply sweep it or bury it under the rug, or bury it in the ground like nothing happened. You're only hurting yourselves in the long run by doing this. Mitch is right. People, you've got to recognize Chris Benoit for his career. That doesn't mean you have to recognize what he did was right, but you have to at least recognize his career, because he was part of that career. He's part of that industry. He's part of that history. You cannot just erase something and make it not look like it's happened. It's just not. It's not feasible. It's so unrealistic. It's really not the most realistic thing you could have done. I mean, you know, sure, you're angry with him, but being angry, it's only going to hurt you in the long run. It's only going to hurt you as an industry and as a company, and it's going to hurt you in your credibility. And I'm going to tell you why. Because by burying things like that, by burying certain things, you're only going to create holes in your history. And when there's holes in people's history, and when the historians or people later on down the line are doing any research, any thorough research and objective research, they are going to get very suspicious. You understand? They're going to get very suspicious, and the fact that you're trying to bury something just because you're ashamed of something that that didn't agree with you, that you didn't agree with, and and I didn't agree with it either. But I still recognize Chris Benoit as part of the history of the industry, and it's time you do the same. Because in the long run, like I said, you're only going to hurt yourself by doing this. You're only hurting, the fans. You're hurting, people. Let the people decide for themselves. Stop trying to think for other people so much. That's what I mean. You think that you know what people think, and just let people decide for themselves once in their lives. Let them decide. But you got to at least have bring Chris Benoit back as far as the recognition of the history. Because if you don't, I guarantee you that you're only going to hurt yourself further. You're only going to go down further. And Mitch is right. He needs to be recognized for his career. Buried under the rug is not healing, and that's just it. I know I'm going to sound metaphysical about this when I say this, but real healing needs to happen. And in order for real healing needs to happen, certain things need to be recognized that are for the positive. Because if you keep burying it, it's only going to grow. The resentment's going to grow, and then everything else is going to start failing along the lines. I mean, people will not trust you anymore. People are going to start thinking that you've got something to hide, if anything. So, and like I said, this is not a tribute to Chris Benoit as a person. It's a tribute for his career. So make it that way. Make it as such. Recognize what he did. He's part of your history. You can't deny that. And if you try to, it's not going to look good in the long run. It's going to look crazy, and it's going to not look credible, and it's going to look shady. So WWE and everyone else that's doing that, you need to just forgive all that. And if you need to, forgive yourselves for whatever. If you play a part in it or whatever, just forgive yourselves and move forward. Healing comes in many levels, not just individually, but it could come as a company, it could come as a collective. Just let it go. Just let it go. So, Mitch, like I said, I really commend what you have put out and what you've said, and like I said before, and it takes a lot of courage for you to say what you said, and I really am proud of that you said all these things, and it made me really realize that I have moved on, and I have certain things that I've looked upon. I guess but when you brought that up, it made me think about the past of what I've experienced as a fan too, because I also have been a fan of professional wrestling, and I guess part of it's really one of the reasons why I haven't watched wrestling as much either. But I've actually forgiven it and started watching it more and more throughout the last couple of years. Now, granted, I've been becoming more of an MMA fan and other kinds of combative sports fan, but I've always been a martial arts fan anyway, myself. So it doesn't matter whether it's stage fights or real fights. I've always been a fan of combative sports or dramas or whatever the case may be. So I am not necessarily proud of the idea where WWE is going. I mean, at least right now, I am better. It's better off now that Triple H is now a CEO. But like I said before, more needs to be done. And one of the key things that I feel needs improvement is at least recognize Chris Benoit again. At least bring him back to the history books. You owe him that much. He contributed so much to you guys. At least be more grateful than that, despite what he did. And you know what? If I'm and I'm not even going to worry about the haters or people going to have their rebuttals and everything. Because people that have their beliefs, people that have whatever they have. But let me warn you guys something right now, okay? If you guys gonna think about hating or throwing stones, you may want to think again, because I'm gonna tell you something. It's easy to throw stones or point fingers if you're not in a certain situation or whatever the case may be. The best thing we can have to do, guys, is to have compassion for people. Just have compassion for the families that are still alive and things like that. I mean, it's so easy to throw stones. I mean, people have tried to throw stones at people for thousands of years. I mean, in the Middle East. And there was this one particular fellow, by the name of Jesus of Nazareth, who actually said this. Who said this to these people thousands of years ago when they tried to stone a woman, and I'm going to say this to you guys right now. Cast ye thy stone in which you have not sinned. Okay? Go ahead, cast a stone if you think you're so righteous and everything like that, and there's no wrong in you. We've all sinned at one point or another. So if you think you can go ahead and try to cast a stone, go ahead. But let me warn you something though. Make sure that your house are in order when you do this. You know why? Because if you have houses made of chandelier, there's a saying that goes, people that live in glass houses should not throw stones at all. Why? Because if you try to throw stones at so many people at one point, there will come a point where you're going to have someone that's going to retaliate, whether it's myself or with anybody else, who are going to throw stones right back at you. And not only just right back at you, but throw stones at your house that's made of chandelier and you in it. And then once that stone hits, it will shatter not only the glass, it'll shatter your world, it'll shatter your whole reality, and it'll make it come into shit. And on top of that, when everything comes down on you, everything from your reality and your world will be a bloody mess. So you may want to rethink before you start throwing stones at people about this, and the best thing, like I said, is to have forgiveness. And just, you know what, and despite the fact that I'm not a huge Cena fan, I'm not a Cena hater either. And I like the idea that he had a shirt recently called Rise Above the Hate. We just simply need to do just that. Rise above the hate. Now, he may have doing it pertaining to himself and to the fans that half that can't stand him and half that want to see him, be in a different position in life, so to speak. But this may be on himself. But I see beyond that. I see beyond what the shirt is saying. But we do need to rise above the hate in general as a society. We need to rise above it, or otherwise it's gonna rise above us, if anything, if you get what I'm saying. So, Mitch, great job for WrestlingGurus.com. Oh my goodness, you have a lot of wisdom, man, and I can really see you doing something big in this world. So, keep up the great work, Mitch, of the Wrestling Gurus champion. You really are a champ in my eyes now. And I've seen a couple of your shows, but man, you really impressed me on that. And I'm proud that you brought this up. And now I decided I'm going to stand up and say what I need to say. So great job, and thank you very much for that. And before I go, I just want to let you know that you can go ahead and for those who don't know who Mitch is in the Wrestling Gurus, you just go to youtube.com/The Wrestling Gurus. And also, if you want to get to know me more about me and what Rainbow and I do, go to bearandrainbow.com. And also, follow me on Twitter at twitter.com /Bear Rehab, or just at Bear Rehab. Bear like BEAROF, and then rehab, like rehabilitation, but REHAB. So that's how it goes. So, anyways, I'm gonna get going. It's early in the morning, but I got a lot of things to get going. So I hope you guys take things in perspective, guys. That's all I'm putting out. I'm putting out a perspective. And just remember, there are worse things in this world than whatever Chris Benoit ever did, whether it's our governments that have killed various people and things. Let's just all keep things in perspective, and let's just rise above the hate. And let's just recognize the great things in life, rather than always the worst. So anyway, go ahead. I'm going to get going. So take care, everybody. Have a great day. Healing. It is all that is.